coconuts that are all across here, they do two things really well. They create a canopy of shade so that you don't have intense sunlight, because most of the crops that are below, that are growing down here can't handle intense direct sunlight. And then the other thing that they do is they draw moisture up. They're incredible water sources. They bring up a huge amount of water, and they only use about 1/5 of the water that they bring to the surface. So you can have a relatively arid area, and the coconuts will make water available for everything around it. They call them the trees of life. The coconut is not like, it's not a dicot, meaning it's not like the trees that we have in the States with a xylem and a phloem, and it pulls one up and the waste goes out the other. It's just a big straw, and it just sucks all the liquid straight up, all the way up the trunk. And then if you cut the flower, if you cut the tip of the flower, there's a positive pressure, and it just pushes the liquid that's come all the way through the starch of the tree all the way up, out the flower. And it's filled with sugars. The coconut flower is actually a bunch of fingers. And those fingers have inflorescences, or tiny little flowers all over them. And that process continues in a spiral fashion, and that's actually how the tree grows, like a spiral. So in order to harvest, you first have to wrap that whole mayang, or the bunch of flowers, and then he's just cutting the tip off that flower, just a tiny little sliver, like you're slicing cold cuts. And over the course of a month of harvesting every single day, he'll use up that flower, and then he'll move on to the next flowers. The coconut tree is constantly producing flowers, and you can constantly produce nira every single day. These are the collection vessels. They're just coconut shells. And then inside, if you take a look inside, we have what's called lau. And what that is limestone, just literally rocks from the garden, chopped up. And they blend it with jackfruit wood, and they soak it in water. And that liquid has a pH of about 11. Up in those trees, all around the flowers, there's all sorts of, pollinators. And there's a ton of wild yeast. And so when the nira ferments so fast, you have two choices. Turn it into coconut sugar right away, or you can wait until 5 p.m. and sit around and drink out of 5-gallon jugs and have a party with your friends. It turns into tuak, just sort of a bubbly beer. So the lau, the liquid that's in here right now, the purpose is to prevent that fermentation. This is long before there were pH meters. I have no idea how they figured out how to prevent it from fermenting so they could make sugar.